Ahmed, a young doctor from Cairo, was known for his obsession with the human brain, especially how sleep affected consciousness. He believed that dreams were not random images, but gateways to hidden parts of the mind. One evening, while sitting alone in his apartment surrounded by medical papers and empty coffee cups, Ahmed's phone chimed. It was an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "Confidential Project, Human Sleep Research." He opened it carefully. "Dr. Ahmed, you have been selected to assist in a classified experiment on sleep deprivation conducted by the Russian Institute of Neurobiology. Duration, 30 days. Compensation, $250,000. Secrecy required." At first, he thought it was a scam, but attached was an official document with seals, signatures, and a flight ticket to Siberia leaving in 3 days. Ahmed hesitated. Something about the offer felt wrong. But curiosity, his lifelong weakness, won. He imagined what he could discover, what he could publish, what boundaries of the human mind he could break. 3 days later, Ahmed stood in the frozen wind of a Russian airfield, his breath turning to mist. A black military jeep was waiting for him. 2 silent soldiers escorted him through endless forests until they reached a concrete facility hidden beneath the snow. Inside, the air smelled of metal and chemicals. He met 3 other scientists, pale, nervous, and silent. Behind a thick glass wall were 5 men dressed in gray uniforms, sitting on steel beds. A Russian officer handed Ahmed a folder and said, "Your job is to observe, record everything, no matter what happens." Ahmed glanced at the subjects. They looked ordinary, but soon they would not. The officer turned on a control panel and whispered, "Let the gas begin." The hiss of machinery filled the room. And so the experiment began. The room was silent except for the low hum of the gas system. A faint hiss filled the air, seeping through silver pipes into the sealed chamber. The gas itself was colorless and odorless, designed to keep the subjects awake, no matter what. Ahmed sat before the glass window, eyes fixed on the 5 men inside. They looked calm at first, chatting softly, laughing even. One of them, a man named Victor, joked about how easy the experiment would be. Another, Sergei, said, 30 days? That's nothing." But Ahmed knew the human brain couldn't survive without sleep for that long. Even a few days of deprivation caused hallucinations, paranoia, and madness. He took notes carefully, recording every heartbeat, every blink, every word. By the 3rd day, their laughter faded. By the 5th, their eyes had become red and dry, their skin pale. They stopped talking to each other and began whispering to themselves instead. Ahmed heard them through the microphones, incoherent sentences, fragments of memories, names repeated again and again. One night, Victor screamed for hours. He begged the researchers to let him sleep, saying, "S something in the corners when I close my eyes. It's waiting for me." The commander, Colonel Orlov, ignored him. He looked at Ahmed and said, "Continue observation. They must stay awake." Ahmed clenched his jaw. "These men are breaking apart," he said quietly. Orlov's cold reply came without emotion. "That's the point, Doctor. We must know what comes after sanity." By the 7th night, the chamber was filled with shadows that weren't there. The subject stared at the walls, twitching, whispering to unseen things. Ahmed wrote in his logbook, "The experiment is no longer about sleep. It's about something else, something watching us all." And somewhere deep inside the chamber, one of the men began to laugh, a dry, hollow laugh that echoed through the speakers long after everyone had gone silent. 13 nights had passed. No one in the chamber had slept, not even for a second. The men no longer looked human. Their eyes were bloodshot, their movements unnatural, like puppets controlled by invisible strings. Their voices had grown low and hollow, speaking in broken sentences that made no sense. Ahmed hadn't slept much either. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of the chamber, 5 figures staring back at him through the glass. He began to feel that the experiment was affecting him too. That night, something strange happened. All 5 subjects stopped moving. They stood perfectly still, facing the walls. The monitors showed intense brain activity, far beyond normal human levels. Ahmed leaned closer to the screen, whispering to himself, "TB real. Their neurons are firing like they're dreaming, while awake." Suddenly, one subject turned slowly toward the observation window. He pressed his face against the glass, blood dripping from his nose. His eyes locked on Ahmed. The microphone crackled with static and a whisper came through. "Dr. Ahmed." "We can see you." Ahmed froze. The man smiled, his teeth stained red. "You don't need sleep either, doctor. You can join us." The commander ordered the speakers to be shut off, but the whisper continued. Without the microphone, the sound came from inside Ahmed's head. He stumbled back, clutching his temples. His heartbeat raced. "What's happening to them?" he shouted. One of the other scientists muttered, trembling, "They're evolving, or dying." The next morning, when Ahmed returned to lab, one of the subjects was gone. There were no signs of escape, no broken glass, no door alarms, nothing. Only a message written on the wall in dark, dry blood. "We are still awake." By the 14th day, the experiment had turned into a nightmare. Only 4 subjects remained, but they were no longer behaving like ordinary humans. Their bodies were thin, their skins stretched tight over bone, and their voices had become whispers that blended with the hum of the gas system. Ahmed tried to reason with Colonel Orloff. "They're dying," he said. "This isn't science anymore, it's torture." Orloff's cold eyes didn't move from the monitors. "You will continue your work, doctor. You were paid to observe, not to feel." Ahmed slammed his notebook shut and turned away. He could no longer eat. The smell of the chamber clung to his mind, sweat, blood, and gas. That night, the gas pressure dropped for just 3 seconds due to system failure. Within that moment, one of the subjects collapsed and began to snore softly. Relief washed over Ahmed until the man's body convulsed violently. Blood poured from his mouth and eyes. He died within seconds of falling asleep. The others screamed, banging on the glass, demanding the gas be turned back on. "We need it. We need the wakefulness," they howled. Their nails tore against the steel walls. They began to laugh and cry at the same time. One of them repeated the same words over and over. "Sleep kills. Wake is life. Sleep kills. Wake is life." Ahmed recorded every detail, his hands shaking. He realized the truth. The gas wasn't just preventing sleep. It was changing them, keeping their minds awake even when their bodies could no longer endure it. By the 19th day, the scientists refused to enter the chamber for maintenance. Ahmed volunteered. As he stepped inside with a mask and gloves, he felt an overwhelming pressure in his head, like whispers crawling under his skin. One of the subjects looked at him and smiled, blood dripping from his gums. "You feel it too, doctor. The truth behind your dreams. The thing that waits when you sleep." Ahmed fled the chamber, tearing off his mask and vomiting on the floor. His vision blurred, his ears rang. The whispers followed him down the corridor, repeating one phrase that chilled his soul. "Don't sleep, Ahmed, or we'll show you." By the 23rd day, the facility had fallen into chaos. The subjects inside the chamber no longer ate or drank. They just stood there, staring at the glass with unblinking eyes, as if waiting for something. The air in the control room felt heavy, thick with fear and the scent of burnt metal. Ahmed hadn't slept in days. His hands trembled as he tried to write notes, his vision blurry from exhaustion. Every few minutes, he heard faint whispers in Arabic, his own language, though none of the others spoke it. "Stay awake, Ahmed. You're almost one of us." That night, everything went wrong. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and the gas system overloaded. The pressure burst a valve, sending a scream of steam through the halls. The control monitors went black. "Power failure," one of the Russian scientists shouted. Colonel Orloff grabbed his rifle and barked orders, "Seal the lower levels." But it was too late. The chamber door, the one that had been locked for 3 weeks, was now open. The soldiers entered with flashlights and weapons ready. Ahmed stayed behind the window, heart pounding. The radio crackled with screams. Gunfire. Then silence. Seconds later, something moved in the shadows of the hallway. A figure crawled into the light. One of the subjects, covered in blood, moving with impossible speed. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Ahmed backed away as the creature stepped closer to the glass. "We told you, Doctor. Sleep is death." The creature slammed its hands against the window, cracking it. Ahmed ran, hearing the sound of breaking glass and inhuman screams echoing behind him. He sprinted through the corridors, alarms flashing red, until he reached the exit door, only to find it sealed by emergency lockdown. Whispers filled the air around him, multiplying, growing louder, until they became voices shouting inside his head. "You opened the door. Now you must stay awake forever." Ahmed collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. He saw flashes, faces of the subjects, the gas swirling like fog, and something vast staring from behind the walls. Then came silence. The next moment, Ahmed rose slowly, his expression calm, eyes wide open. The whispers stopped. He turned toward the laboratory and walked back inside. Days passed. The storm outside buried the facility under meters of snow. No one responded to radio calls. No rescue teams came. When the military finally arrived, they expected to find the researchers alive. Instead, they found silence. The hallways were filled with blood, the walls marked with strange words written in both Russian and Arabic. Every door was broken. Every light flickered weakly in the dark. In the main laboratory, they found only one man left, Dr. Ahmed. He was sitting inside the gas chamber, surrounded by the remains of the subjects. His eyes were open, his face peaceful, as if he were meditating. The gas system was still running, hissing softly. A soldier stepped forward, cautiously. "He's alive," one whispered. Ahmed turned his head slowly, his pupils completely black. "You shouldn't have come," he said in a calm, distant voice. "They're still here." Before anyone could react, the power cut out again. The emergency lights glowed red. Screams echoed from the hallway. Gunfire. Then silence. When light returned, Ahmed was gone. Only his recorder remained on the floor, still running. The final audio log contained his voice, slow, trembling, yet strangely serene. "For centuries, we believed sleep was rest. But sleep is the door we close every night to keep them out. We were fools to open it." He paused. "The gas. It didn't keep us awake. It kept them in." A long exhale followed. Then the faint sound of a whisper, multiple voices speaking as one. "We are awake now." The tape ended. When the military sealed the base, they ordered the experiment files destroyed. But months later, a copy of the recordings appeared online under the title, "The Russian Sleep Experiment Cairo Edition." No one ever saw Dr. Ahmed again. But sometimes when researchers study recordings, they swear they can hear his voice in the background, whispering through static, "Don't sleep.